I hate people, even fictional ones. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evelyn, and over the course of the next few days, I'm going to be reading The Mirror Season by Anna-Marie McLemore. So I'm filming this video a few days before the book releases, but the video is not actually going to go up for another couple of weeks because I'm doing this as part of a tour in collaboration with Colored Pages Book Tours. So if you're here from the tour, hi! Welcome! My name is Evelyn, and I like to talk about books on the internet. You should consider clicking that subscribe button so you can stick around even longer. If you're watching this on release day, today is tour day 1, which means you have an entire week's worth of awesome The Mirror Season related content to look forward to, and in order to find it you can check out the description. I will put a link to where you can find all of the posts across the internet. I just want to extend a huge thank you to Colored Pages Book Tours for consistently hooking me up with amazing Latinx books that I've been highly anticipating. I was so excited when I got picked for this tour, specifically because I had a really awesome idea for this video that involves a baking project. So stay tuned for more on that. So like I said, I've been highly anticipating this book, and I have been waiting kind of impatiently for the arc to arrive. It arrived last night, and I did film a little bit of footage when I was unboxing it, so I'll stick that in right here. Okay, so my arc of The Mirror Season is here, except it's not an arc. This is a finished copy of the book. What is happening? I feel so special. I've never had a publisher send me a finished copy that I didn't pay for. I mean, I guess I've never had a publisher send me a finished copy. That's what bookstores do. What is this? It also came in this, like, giant cardboard ravioli thing. Oh, one moment. What is that? What is happening to me? Yeah, so as you can see, I didn't actually receive an arc. I received a gorgeous finished copy of this book. Look how pretty this cover is. We're just gonna take a moment and look how pretty this cover is. Look at the little birds. Little birds. Oh, it is so pretty. It's got the pansexual colors on it and everything because the main character is pansexual. And we're gonna figure out who designed it. Let's see. Okay, according to this, the jacket art is by Marley Galadaro and the jacket design is by Liz Dressner. Shout out to those two because this book is gorgeous. I'm so excited to have a finished copy to add to my collection. So what is the book about? I don't know in great detail. I try to avoid learning too much about books before I get into them because I get expectations and then I get disappointed. So as far as I know, this book follows Graciela, a teenage girl who has the ability to create magical pan dulce. But she loses that ability after she and a boy she doesn't know are sexually assaulted at the same party. Then this boy shows up at her school and she decides to help him without telling him what she knows because bad things will happen if the truth gets out. There's also something in the description about magical shattered glass, and knowing Anna-Marie McLemore's penchant for incorporating fairy tales into their stories, I have a feeling that this is in some way inspired by The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. So before I really get into things, I want to issue a just blanket content warning for discussion of sexual assault both in this book and in this video. I'm gonna read the content warning that is in the book. This book contains discussions of sexual assault and PTSD. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, please know that there's help and there's hope. If you don't know where to start with RAINN, and then it has the website and the number for RAINN. That's RAINN. And I will stick that information in the description of this video as well. I am coming into this book as someone who does not have personal experience with sexual assault, and I would encourage you, if you are concerned about the portrayal, to try to find reviews by survivors. I don't know if there are any out there. If there are and I can find some, I will link those in the description as well. So, I am very excited to jump into this book and bring y'all along with me. I love Anna-Marie McLemore's prose, and so I think this is just gonna be a really wonderful experience, and we're gonna have some fun this week. So, let's get started. So, I've reached about the 100-page mark, and I am already loving this book so much. There's this quote that I just read. It's by Locke, who is the male character who Graciela knows was sexually assaulted at the same party as her. He is about to tell her his side of that story, and he says to her, "It costs something to listen to someone else's story. People forget that sometimes, so I get it if you don't want to hear mine." And I think that's so beautiful because it sums up this book as a whole so far so well. It even almost felt like Anna-Marie McLemore speaking directly to their audience through Locke. It also sums up the relationship between Locke and Ciela up to this point, which has been so wonderful. It's delicate and cautious, but also incredibly respectful, and they keep making each other laugh, which I wasn't expecting. They keep making each other laugh, and that makes me laugh, and it just warms my heart all the way through, which is wonderful for a book that is dealing with such intense, difficult topics. It can also make me smile. Hello, good afternoon. I'm sitting here in my kitchen because today I'm going to be baking something inspired by the mirror season. So I've mentioned this briefly already, but a big part of this story is the concept of magical enchanted pan dulce. Pan dulce is sort of a general term to describe a variety of different traditional pastries, and it actually can refer to different pastries depending on which Latinx country you were talking about. So the traditional pan dulce from Cuba would be different than the traditional pan dulce from Mexico. In this book, Graciela's family actually runs a bakery, and she has inherited this like magical family ability to look at a person and instantly know what kind of pan dulce they need to improve their life. And it's a big part of her story and her community in the novel, and so I wanted to honor that by baking some pan dulce. So I have picked conchas, which are a traditional Mexican pan dulce. They're actually mentioned at least once in this book here. Conchas translates to seashells because when done properly, these pastries are supposed to be reminiscent of seashells. Now, I picked these for a couple of reasons. First of all, they don't have that many ingredients, and I had most of the ingredients already. I just needed to pick up some condensed milk. Also, there's no like filling or anything that I have to mess with. It's just the yeasted dough for the roll itself, and then like a streusel kind of topping on top. And although I've never made conchas, I have made yeasted dough before for like cinnamon rolls. So it was a little more familiar to me than some of the other options. Like I said, this is a traditional Mexican pastry. I have never had it before. My family's traditional Mexican recipes are more on the savory side of things: rice, beans, tamales, mole, etc. We do have a family friend who makes flan, but I've never had an opportunity to try any like traditional pastries. I really love baking. It's one of my favorite pastimes, and so I decided that I wanted to learn. I've been wanting to learn, and this was the perfect inspiration for me. I will link the recipe that I'm using today down below. It's from a video by Simply Mama Cooks on YouTube. It's very straightforward. I feel like it'll be really easy to follow. Fingers crossed. I am a little bit nervous though about the kneading of the dough. I don't have a dough hook for our hand mixer, so I feel like I should knead it by hand, and like I'm a little not super strong. So we'll see if I can get that gluten where it needs to be. But otherwise, I am super excited, so let's get started. First, I gotta open up my milk. So I'm reading a couple of chapters of the book while I wait for my yeast to activate, and there's a simile. There's a simile with conchas in here. My heart feels as soft as the sugar shell on a concha. It's fate. Well, that was a very short-lived foray into baking conchas, as I have discovered my yeast is dead. So, I am going to have to try this again after I can get to the store and get some more yeast. Good thing it is Saturday, and Saturday is the day that Olivia and I go shopping. So, this evening I will be able to try again. So, see you then. So, several hours and a trip to the grocery store later, I was finally ready to start baking conchas. I don't know why I decided to do this in a black sweater when I needed 4 whole cups of flour in this recipe, but you know, it's fine. I added lemon zest and cinnamon to my dough. The lady in the video said they were optional, but they would add a nice flavor, and I don't know what the flavor of conchas is supposed to actually be like, and lemon zest and cinnamon are always good, so why not? I used Mexican vanilla extract in this recipe simply because it is my go-to. I think it's my mom's go-to because it was my grandma's go-to, and I ran out after this and we couldn't find any at the store, so we had to get like regular like McCormick brand. Do not recommend that. No. That was a bad decision. I miss my Mexican vanilla extract. And then I poured in my partially activated yeast. I don't think it was fully activated, but it worked out in the end. I just don't know. Yeast and I aren't friends, apparently. So, like I said, I have made yeasted dough before, but under the careful supervision of my mother at home, where we have fancy things like a stand mixer with a dough hook. I was very much not confident in my own ability to make this dough properly, and because I've never had conchas before, I am unsure if I got the right texture with the dough because I feel like I could have kneaded it longer. It wasn't quite as like smooth and perfect as her ball of dough was in the video. So, despite my skepticism, the dough actually did end up rising. I left it for an hour, came back to check on it, and it had barely risen at all. I was like, oh no, not another yeast disaster. So I left it for another half hour and I came back and boom, it was like twice the size that it had been. I was so relieved because that yeast did not look totally activated when I put it in the dough. Maybe it was just slow to wake up. I don't know, but it did the job and I was proud of it. For some like misguidedly optimistic reason, I thought that after the yeast fiasco that was making the dough, making this topping would be a lot easier. I think I was just fooled by how few ingredients in it there were. However, something was not right when I made that topping because it was way too crumbly. Like, there was no stick to that thing whatsoever. I was trying to flatten it out into little discs to put on top, and it was just crumbling around the edges. I finally got some like really ugly topping on all of them, and I tried to like score the first one, and everything just came tumbling off. So I took it all off, put it back in the bowl, and added milk, which I don't believe I was supposed to add, and if I was, I totally didn't. I just missed that step. But either way, that is what saved my topping, was just like a little splash of milk, and then it was way, way easier to work with. They still didn't look great, but they did look like conchas and not just a crumbly mess. Okay, here we have the final product. Look at that. That looks almost like a thing. Okay, so we're gonna, it's very warm, but we're gonna tear this sucker open. That's what it looks like on the inside. It's doughy, so that's good. I'm gonna try. my god. I think it got a little overbaked. But otherwise, I did it. Holy shit. Like, I've never had these baked by someone who knows what they're doing. So, I don't know if they taste totally correct, but taste pretty dang good. So, I'm happy. Honestly. Woo! Whether or not I actually got them totally correct or not, the conchas actually ended up being pretty great reading fuel. I'm getting baking tips from the book. I just left my conchas to cool on the baking sheet. And I noticed that the bottoms of some of them are a little more. And Graciela just told me via telling Locke that you can't leave them on the baking sheet because the metal is still hot, and if you leave them there, they'll keep cooking, which, like, probably duh. Should have thought about that. But oh well, they were still edible. They're still good. This is my first time. It's been several weeks since I've had the time to actually sit down and read something, but I had the time today, and I just realized that I've been reading this book for like over an hour, and I didn't even realize that I'd been doing it because I was so sucked into it. One thing that I've found consistently compelling is the fact that this book is so funny. And I actually was listening to Anna-Marie McLemore's interview on the Write or Die podcast, where they talked about exactly why that is, as well as why they wrote this story, why the story's important to them. It just really helped me understand, as someone who has not experienced sexual assault, the very deep and real, meaningful emotions behind this story. Okay, so I'm officially finished reading the Mirror season, and wow. Wow. This is just such a gorgeous book. I mean, like, it lived up to all of my expectations that I had and exceeded them in ways I wasn't expecting. I am just so impressed by the storytelling in here, the prose. I probably should have taken longer to sit and think about it before I jumped into wrapping up my thoughts, but here we are, and my thoughts are currently just wow. I don't want to speak too much on the themes of sexual assault within this book, specifically because it's not something that I've ever personally experienced. If I take a step back and I look at this book through a lens of healing from trauma, regardless of whatever trauma that may be, I do think, personally, that this is a very good depiction of the process of healing. Because it's messy, it's not straightforward, sometimes it is deeply, achingly sad and difficult, both for the characters and for me, the reader, to get through. And sometimes it's funny, and joyful, and I loved that. I loved how emotional this book was, and by that I mean I love how easily it got emotional reactions out of me, the reader. I was completely in tune with what Graciela was feeling and thinking and worrying about and hurting over, and at the same time I was brought joy by the same things that brought her joy, and it was wonderful to be able to go on that journey with her throughout the story. Of course, none of that is the reason that I received this copy of the book. I received this copy of the book because, like Graciela and her family, my family and I are Mexican American, and I just loved all of the little details of their culture and their family and their history that are woven into this story, because they are such a part of who Graciela is as a person. I think this is best illustrated through Graciela's gift. The magic in this book is very heavily based in like the magical realism tradition. Anna-Marie McLemore is kind of the YA author to go to if you're looking for magical realism. The magic is not Graciela's magic. It's a gift, right? It is a gift bestowed upon her that she shares with her family and her community. Oftentimes when characters have magic or a magical ability, it's something that they wield in a way for themselves or for their own benefit. It's something they can use to defend themselves or gain knowledge or power. Graciela's gift of being able to look at someone and know instinctively what pan dulce they need and why and how it will make their lives better is inherently something that helps other people. She uses it to bring business into the bakery, but at the same time, that's a family bakery. There's nothing about this gift that Graciela does not share with other people aside from just the sense of purpose that it gives her. But that purpose is very tied to her place within her family and her community. I'm also just so thrilled with myself that out of all of the Mexican pastries that I could have picked to bake, I picked one of the ones that is the most heavily featured within the story, and I know that's probably just because I picked like the most basic Mexican pastry I could find, but at the same time, it definitely made me feel like I was on track. Does that make sense? Like, I'm reading these stories and I'm learning these recipes and learning how to speak Spanish even though I'm so bad at it, because I want my culture to be something that I participate in and not something that just I keep and covet. Most of my family is perfectly content to be like, yeah, Mexico, let's have a family reunion and eat tamales and drink tequila and smack a piñata around, but like, I think my mom and maybe one of my cousins, one of my other aunts, and me are the only ones who've ever bothered to try to learn how to make the food, right? It's the difference between consuming your own culture and actively participating in your own culture, and I don't ever want to be someone who only consumes the culture. It's the same reason that I always try to speak up or at least amplify the voices of people who are informed when there are issues within the community. It's why I take the opportunity to read books by Latinx authors, especially not white ones, because I want to make sure that if I'm, you know, reaping the benefits of my culture, that I'm giving something back to the rest of the community. And I don't have a lot to give yet, but I'm learning. Now I can give conchas, kind of, maybe. I still haven't had anyone eat them who actually knows what they're supposed to taste like. So yeah, I'm still learning. This book actually gave me a lot of new things to learn about, specifically just a bunch of new pastries. I like baking and sweet things and eating the sweet things that I bake. And I think I'll always be learning. I like that. I think it's good. That's it for today's reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Also, thank you to Color Pages Book Tours for hooking me up with this book. I loved it. Y'all do great work. And a reminder that today is only day 1 of the book tour, and the rest of the stuff is linked in the description, so make sure to go check it out. with that being, if you like this video and you want to see more from my channel, make sure to click that subscribe button. With that being said, my name is Evelyn, I make new videos every magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye bye!